The Indiana Fever just blew a 12-point lead in the most heartbreaking fashion. And if you think Stephanie White has this team ready for the playoffs, you need to watch what happened in that third quarter. Because while Lexie Hull was putting up career numbers and playing like an absolute warrior, her coach's decisions might have just cost them everything. Before we dive into this absolute meltdown, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe if you want the real story about what's happening with your Indiana Fever. Trust me, you're going to want to hear this. Look, I'm going to be straight with you. Nobody expected the Fever to win this game against the 29-7 Minnesota Lynx. But here's the thing that's got Fever fans absolutely losing their minds right now. When you're up 12 points in the first half, when you're dominating the best team in the league, when you've got them on the ropes, you don't just roll over and die in the third quarter, but that's exactly what happened under Stephanie White's watch, and the pattern is becoming impossible to ignore. Let me paint you a picture of what went down at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. The Fever came out absolutely on fire. I'm talking about Lexie Hull scoring 11 of their first 15 points. The girl who never gets plays called for her, the one who Stephanie White seems to forget exists half the time, was absolutely cooking. 9 for 16 from the field, 4 for 7 from 3, 23 points. That's not just a career high, folks. That's a statement game from someone who's been waiting all season for her chance to shine. But here's where it gets interesting. And by interesting, I mean absolutely infuriating if you're a Fever fan. After Hull lights up the scoreboard in the first quarter, what does Stephanie White do? Does she run plays for the hot hand? Does she feed the player who's clearly feeling it? Nope. She goes right back to her favorites, and Hull goes through stretches where she doesn't even touch the ball. This is coaching malpractice at its finest, and it's been happening all season long. Now, let's talk about what nobody else is talking about. Jessica Shepard just did something that should have every Fever fan questioning what the heck is going on with this team's defense. She recorded the fastest triple-double in WNBA history. 21 minutes and 57 seconds. Let that sink in. The previous record was 22 minutes and 51 seconds. Shepard finished with 22 points on 10 of 11 shooting, 11 rebounds, and 10 assists with 0 turnovers. This is the third player in WNBA history to record 20 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists, and 0 turnovers in a game. And she did it against the Indiana Fever. You know what's even crazier? She shot 90% from the field while doing it. 90%. That's not basketball. That's a video game on rookie mode. And it happened because the Fever's defensive rotations in the third quarter looked like a middle school team that just learned what basketball was yesterday. Speaking of that third quarter, let's dive into the absolute disaster that was those 15 minutes of basketball. The Fever went into halftime up 52-50. They had all the momentum. The crowd was electric. Kelsey Mitchell was hitting threes like she was playing horse in her backyard, finishing with 27 points on 5 of 7 from deep. But then came the third quarter, and the Fever got outscored 32-17. 32-17. That's not a run. That's a complete collapse. And this isn't the first time we've seen this movie. The Stephanie White third quarter special has become such a regular occurrence that Vegas should start taking bets on it. Since she took over, the Fever have been one of the worst third quarter teams in the entire league. It's like clockwork. Good first half, competitive basketball, then boom, third quarter hits, and it's like watching a completely different team. But wait, it gets worse. Let's talk about the injury situation that nobody saw coming. Chloe Bibby was a last-minute scratch with knee pain. Now, they're saying she's been feeling it for days, but guess what? She was out at the driving range the day before the game. The driving range. If your knee is bothering you so much that you can't play professional basketball, what are you doing swinging golf clubs? Make it make sense, because right now, nothing about this team's injury management makes any sense. And don't even get me started on the fact that Caitlin Clark is still out with that groin injury from July 15th. We're talking about over a month now. Sophie Cunningham, season-ending MCL tear. Sydney Colson, done for the year with an ACL. Ari McDonald, broken foot, see you next season. This team is literally falling apart, and they're trying to make the playoffs with 9 healthy players. 9. Here's what really gets me, though. In the middle of all this chaos, they bring in Shea Petty on a 7-day contract. And you know what? She actually played well. 3 for 4 from three-point range, 10 points, 4 assists in 22 minutes. That's exactly what they needed from a backup guard. But here's the question. Why did it take this long to bring in help? Why are we scrambling for players when we've known about these injuries for weeks? Now, let's talk about Aaliyah Boston, because what's happening to her under Stephanie White is criminal. 7 for 9 shooting, which sounds great, right? But only 6 rebounds and 15 points. For a player of her caliber, that's not enough touches. And you want to know why? Because Stephanie White has her playing on the perimeter, while Natasha Howard gets all the post touches. This is where I need to be real with you all. Natasha Howard has not fit with this team all season. She's shooting 3.6 from beyond the arc on 2.2 attempts. She's averaging 8 points and 4 rebounds. Those aren't starter numbers, those are barely rotation player numbers. But Stephanie White keeps forcing her into the lineup, keeps running plays for her in the post, while Aaliyah Boston, your franchise center, is relegated to setting screens 30 feet from the basket. Remember when they had Caitlin Clark running pick and rolls with Boston? That was beautiful basketball. Boston was averaging nearly a double-double, shooting over 60% from the field. Now, she's a glorified point center who barely touches the ball in the paint. It's coaching malpractice, plain and simple. And speaking of Caitlin Clark, let's address the elephant in the room. There was a video that surfaced where Clark talked about how Stephanie White yanked her from a game for making one aggressive pass. One pass! She was trying to make a play, trying to push the pace, and White pulls her and tells her not to take risks. You don't win championships by playing scared. You don't develop young talent by crushing their confidence every time they try to make something happen. This is the same coach who lets Kelsey Mitchell go into hero ball mode for entire quarters without saying a word. Don't get me wrong, Mitchell is having an incredible season. But when she gets that tunnel vision, when she starts dribbling in circles looking for her shot, somebody needs to rein her in. That somebody should be the head coach. But White seems to have different rules for different players, and it's destroying this team's chemistry. Let's also talk about the playoff race. Because despite all this dysfunction, the Fever are somehow still in 6th place at 19-17. But look at who's chasing them. The Los Angeles Sparks are 17-18, just 1.5 games back. They have a game in hand, meaning they control their own destiny. Even worse, the Sparks hold the tiebreaker against Indiana, and they play each other one more time. The Golden State Valkyries are right there too at 18-18. Seattle's at 19-18. This isn't a comfortable lead. This is a knife fight for the last couple of playoff spots. And with the schedule the Fever have remaining, things could get ugly fast. They've got the Lynx again on Sunday. After that, it's a brutal stretch that includes multiple games against playoff teams. Meanwhile, the Sparks have a slightly easier path, and the Mystics, who are only 2.5 games back, have been playing better basketball lately. You know what the real tragedy is here? This team has the talent to be special. When healthy, a lineup of Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, Lexie Hull, Aaliyah Boston, and whoever you want at the 5 is a playoff team. Maybe even a dangerous playoff team, but injuries have decimated the roster and the coaching has been questionable at best. Stephanie White came in with so much fanfare, WNBA Coach of the Year in 2023, a history with the Fever. Indiana native, Purdue legend. She was supposed to be the one to take this young core to the next level. Instead, we're watching third quarter collapses, questionable rotations, and a complete misuse of Aaliyah Boston. And let's be real about Lexie Hull for a second. This girl just dropped 23 points on the best team in the league, and I guarantee you she won't get the same opportunity next game. That's been the pattern all season. Hull has a great game, then disappears for 3 games because White doesn't run anything for her. It's maddening to watch, especially when you consider that Hull is one of the best defenders on the team and can clearly score when given the opportunity. The fact that it took injuries to 3 guards for Hull to get 38 minutes is everything wrong with this coaching staff. She should have been getting these minutes all along. She should have been developed as a legitimate third option behind Clark and Mitchell. Instead, she's been relegated to the end of the bench, only seeing meaningful time when there's literally nobody else available. Here's something else that's been bothering me. The Fever are supposed to be building something special here. They've got the Rookie of the Year from last season in Caitlin Clark. They've got a former #1 overall pick in Aaliyah Boston. They've got one of the best pure scorers in the league in Kelsey Mitchell. This should be a team on the rise, a team that free agents want to join, a team that's must-watch basketball every night. Instead, they're barely holding on to a playoff spot while players are dropping like flies. And the coaching decisions make less sense with each passing game. DeWanna Bonner already requested out earlier this season because she wasn't happy with her fit. That should have been a red flag. When a veteran of her caliber doesn't want to be part of your system, maybe the problem isn't the player. And can we talk about the home crowd for a second? Gainbridge Fieldhouse has been electric this season. These fans deserve better than watching their team blow double-digit leads in the third quarter. They deserve better than seeing Aaliyah Boston relegated to a supporting role while Natasha Howard bricks shots in the post. They deserve better than watching Lexie Hull ride the bench after scoring 23 points. The Commissioner's Cup was supposed to be a stepping stone. Remember when they beat the Lynx 74-59 in that championship game? Granted, the Lynx didn't have their full roster, but neither did the Fever. It showed what this team could be when everything clicks. But consistency has been impossible to find, and that falls on coaching. You want to know what's really frustrating? Watching other teams develop their young talent while the Fever seems stuck in neutral. Look at what Seattle's doing with their young players. Look at how the Liberty have integrated their rookies. Meanwhile, in Indiana, we're watching Aaliyah Boston's development stagnate because she's not being put in positions to succeed. The advanced stats tell the whole story. When Boston gets touches in the paint, the Fever's offensive rating jumps by nearly 8 points per 100 possessions. When she's on the perimeter setting screens, they're actually negative in offensive efficiency. So what does Stephanie White do? Keeps her on the perimeter. Make it make sense. And before anyone says I'm being too harsh on Stephanie White, let me remind you of something. This is professional basketball. This is the WNBA. These players deserve coaches who put them in positions to succeed, who maximize their talents, who make adjustments when things aren't working. What we're seeing in Indiana is none of that. The third quarter against Minnesota was just the latest example. The Lynx made adjustments at halftime, they started switching on screens, they got more aggressive on the offensive glass, they pushed the pace. What adjustments did the Fever make? None. They came out flat, got punched in the mouth, and never recovered. Napheesa Collier didn't even have a great game by her standards. And the Lynx still won by 5. Kayla McBride dropped 29, sure, but it was Jessica Shepard's triple-double that really exposed the Fever's issues. When a player is getting whatever she wants in the paint, while also facilitating from the high post, your defensive scheme is broken. Here's my prediction for the rest of the season. And Fever fans, you might want to sit down for this. Unless Caitlin Clark comes back at 100%, and I mean 100%, not 80, not 90, but fully healthy and in rhythm, this team is going to struggle to make the playoffs. And even if they do sneak in as a 7 or 8 seed, they're looking at a first-round exit. The talent is there. Nobody can convince me otherwise. But talent without proper coaching, without proper development, without proper game management is just wasted potential. And that's what we're watching in Indiana right now. Wasted potential. Sunday's rematch with the Lynx is going to tell us everything we need to know about this team's mental toughness. If they come out flat again, if they have another third quarter collapse, if Stephanie White makes the same coaching mistakes, then we'll know this season is essentially over. The playoffs might still be achievable, but any dreams of making noise once they get there? Forget about it. Look, I want to be wrong about this. I want the Fever to prove me wrong. I want to see them come out Sunday and blow the doors off the Lynx. I want to see Aaliyah Boston get 20 touches in the paint. I want to see Lexie Hull get plays run for her. I want to see adjustments that actually make sense. But based on what we've seen all season, based on the patterns that have emerged under Stephanie White's coaching, I'm not holding my breath. This team has championship potential in a few years, but right now, they're not even close. And that's the real tragedy of the 2025 Indiana Fever season. The question now is whether management sees what we all see. Whether they're willing to admit that maybe, just maybe, Stephanie White isn't the right coach for this young core. Because if they stick with the status quo, if they keep making the same mistakes, if they keep misusing their best players, then all this potential is going to be wasted. Fever fans, you deserve better. These players deserve better. And until something changes, until there's real accountability for these coaching decisions, we're going to keep seeing the same story play out. Great first half, third quarter collapse, and another heartbreaking loss. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss our next breakdown. Because with the playoff race this tight and drama this thick, you know there's going to be more to talk about. Until next time, this is your WNBA Truth, keeping it 100 about your Indiana Fever.